And the edge is a really big part of that. And so as we move into this new age of AI on the internet, one of the things that I think is really important is not losing that speed, that latency, those latency improvements that we have gained over the last several years. And I think the edge is in a really interesting place to be able to help with that. However, there are interesting challenges with this, right? So when people talk about AI, they talk about actually many different types of things. And when we talk about AI as one monolith, I think it kind of misses some of the interesting parts here. So for instance, this box represents the size of a neural network. ResNet 50, for those who are not aware of it, is an image recognition, image classification neural network, right? It's about 150 megabytes, which when you're talking about the edge is not small, right? Typically speaking, programs that run at the edge, on Fastly as well as other places, tend to be on the smaller side. So ResNet 50 exists, and you could actually use it today on Fastly. You could load that into a WebAssembly module. It would work today, right? However, then when we talk about AI, that can also mean things like stable diffusion. Now, stable diffusion is about 30 times the size of an image classification network. So for those who are not aware, stable diffusion is an image generation neural network, right? And it actually gets even worse than this, or worse. If you start looking at modern LLMs, like Llama, that's actually 15 times the size of stable diffusion. We're now up into the many gigabytes size of things. And so when we talk about AI, we're actually talking about a wide variety of different things here, from a computing perspective. So one of the things I think is going to be important for the edge, especially in the coming years, is thinking about this in what I describe as a heterogeneous computing sort of way. Sorry, I'm going to get a little bit technical. But running something like ResNet 50 is not at all the same thing as running something like Llama. And where that runs also has different characteristics, right? Running something like Llama at the very edge doesn't always make sense, right? Because of the sheer number of operations per second that is going to have to do. And so when we step back a while back and started thinking about what does AI mean for Fastly, and what do our users, what do our customers actually want out of this, realize that a lot of what folks actually want are the user experience approaches to AI, right? And so for a lot of these, this actually already works today. And in fact, if you go back to our earliest computed edge demos, you'll see that image classification was one of the very first things we launched on there. So, but there's a lot of things you can do with AI today on Fastly. And so one example of this is spam detection, right? Over on the left side here, you'll see just a little snippet. I wouldn't try to run that directly, but it's very close to the actual code that you could use for this, of actually loading up and executing a spam detection neural network, right? And so on the side here, you can see all right, we will classify this as spam. You could also attempt to do a toxicity detector. If you have user-generated content coming into your site, you might want to see all right, what kind of comment is this? Is this the kind of thing I want displayed on my site? And so I could say all right, this is fine, this is neutral. Or maybe it's not neutral, maybe it's extremely toxic. Whatever. We can go further with that. We could say, how about image classification? Yes, that is my cat. Or what about image generation? Right? You could generate useful images potentially for your site based on what users are inputting. You could say hey, here's a photo that has been generated on the fly based on a user's input. This could be useful. You could also do less useful things with it, which is what I do when I play around with image generation. So one of the things you might notice is that off to the side of this, the only thing that changed each time is actually just the name of the model that we're loading there. And so one of the things that we've been spending some time on is working with Intel and a bunch of others and a bunch of startups and a bunch of other folks as part of the WebAssembly community to help define what it means to run neural networks and AI inside of WebAssembly, or in some cases outside of WebAssembly, right? So when we're thinking about the future of AI at the edge, we're realizing some of these things are going to be run right at the very edge, right next to your user. Some of them are going to need to fall back a little bit further, right? Because they're actually going to take multiple seconds to run anyway, just because of the way that AI works. But